Good morning. All right, so I see that we have quorum, so we're going to proceed to start the meeting. Welcome, Daniel, just in the nick of time. Okay, so I'm going to ask for an approval for the agenda, so I need a mover and a seconder, please. Okay, super. So we've got Ann and Jen. All right, and everyone in favor? Excellent. Okay, next I need confirmation of the minutes. So again, I need a mover and a seconder for the minutes of the last meeting. Don't be shy. Okay, Anne? Daniel, thank you. Any questions about those? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the minutes? Wonderful. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we have no delegations, no briefings, so we're right into business. We have no pre-consultations, no policy development and implementation issues, so we're on to Stream 2 permits. And what's before us here is 73 Baden, and I'm going to ask staff to please introduce the application.
Through you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody. 73 Baden Street is a two-story limestone house with an attached modern rear addition located on the northeastern corner of the intersection of Baden Street and McDonald Avenue, which is approximately 225 meters east of the St. Lawrence College campus. The proposal has been submitted to request approval to repair/restore period windows, replace existing aluminum storm windows with wooden storm windows, repair decorative verge board and soffits and fascia, and repair/enlarge the front porch on the southern limestone portion of the house, while also seeking the following alterations on the northern 1970s addition portion of the house: replacement of 2 existing windows, replacement of an existing door with a window, replacement of an existing window with a sliding patio door, replacement of existing siding with MyBack overlapping wood siding, replacement of the existing side yard deck with a larger deck approximately 3 times the area, and the installation of a wood privacy fence connected to the enlarged deck on the side yard. There are a few conditions I wanted to flag for committee's benefit that Heritage Planning staff will review/approve the finalized southern front portion of the porch details to ensure the style/design is sympathetic to the building's historic value, and should property research be conducted that discovers the original porch design or a design from a suitable restoration period, that design is also going to be considered to be sympathetic to the building's heritage value, regardless of its size/orientation, and that Heritage Planning staff will review/approve the finalized color selection of the eastern elevation side yard deck and associated privacy fence prior to installation. And with that, I will leave it in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go to committee for questions. So does anyone have questions on this one? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to the public for questions. Are there any members of the public who have questions regarding this property? All right, seeing none, I need a mover and a seconder to put this forward. Okay, Anne, Peter, and any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor? All right. You guys are making this a fast meeting at this point. All right. So next we're on to Stream 3 permits. So this is approval through council authority, and the first property up for discussion is 160 Bagot. If I could please have staff introduce the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. So this application, as mentioned, is on 160 Bagot Street. It's a mid-block property between Earl and William Streets on the northwest side of Bagot in the old Sydenham Heritage Conservation District. It is designated as part of that district under Part 5. The application before you is under Section 42 of the Act. The owners are requesting approval to construct in the rear yard a 2.5-story addition connected to the existing freestanding 4-unit dwelling via a 1-story mudroom entry. The addition will be located in the rear yard away from the main facade of Bagot Street. It's approximately 1.8 meters separating the rear addition from the existing dwelling. And the walls of the addition will be set back, aiding in distinguishing it from the original building and ensuring that there are no added width to the main dwelling. The applicant has also demonstrated that the height of the new addition will not exceed the height of the main building. The proposed one-story mudroom connecting the addition to the main dwelling will avoid the rear facade door, window, and voussoir to ensure that it can be reversed without damaging these existing features in the future. This application has proposed to use a combination of cladding, brick, painted wood, or fiber cement board. And staff have reviewed this application against the district plan policies, the official plan, and best practices policies, and are supportive of this application. It was circulated to the usual technical agencies. There are a number of technical comments that we received that the owners and the applicants will need to address as part of conditions of approval. We also received 2 written comments from members of this committee. No substantive concerns were raised. Those are summarized in your agenda for this report. And staff recommend conditional approval of this application as outlined in the motion before you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. So now I'm going to go to the committee for questions. Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to go to the public. Are there any comments or questions from the public? Okay. Seeing none, then I need a mover and a seconder to call the vote on this. Okay, Jen? And Daniel? Okay, any other questions, comments quickly from the committee? All right, seeing none, we're going to call the vote. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Okay, so our next item of business is the application for Ontario Heritage Act approval, 158 Earl Street. Could staff please introduce the report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this application is the easternmost unit of a 3-unit, 2.5-story brick row house known as the Mozart Terrace. It is located on the south side of Earl Street, just east of West Street. The property is designated under both Parts 4 and 5 of the Act. This application comes in under Section 42 of the Act. They are requesting approval of a series of alterations to the building, including the installation of a rear shed dormer, a series of window replacements on the front and rear elevations, the restoration and repair of existing second and third-story windows, the recladding of the front dormers with cedar shingles, and the erection of a coach light beside the front main doors. The most extensive change to this property and through this proposal is, of course, the shed dormer and the change to the roof. Section 531 of the district plan provides roof guidelines and direction on roof alterations on heritage buildings, noting that roof profiles visible from the street should remain unaltered. The subject building is not a prominent landmark per se. It's not designed by a renowned architect or a home of a prominent citizen. It's a simple working class vernacular row house from the 1860s. This type of building in a single, semi, or row form is common in the Sydenham district, both with dormers and without. While this is a substantial addition and change to the property, the features of the heritage building noted in the property inventory and designation bylaw, that being its brick construction and its fenestration pattern as seen from the road, are being preserved and restored. Should the dormer be removed or further altered in the future, the integrity of the heritage resource can be understood and conserved. The applicants have designed the new dormer to include an inset reveal along the eaves edge and side overhang to retain evidence of the original roof profile, making restoration much simpler. Once completed, the project will give the building a renewed purpose with a new family moving in, while investing into its future as a contributing part of the Mozart Terrace and the Old Sydenham District. Heritage Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposal conforms with the intent goals of the district plan and best practices in heritage conservation. Again, a number of technical comments were received as part of this application, and those have been included as conditions of approval and will be addressed accordingly. We also received written comments from 2 members of this committee. The comments are included in your agenda package, and the matters that were brought up were addressed in staff's report. So, Madam Chair, we recommend approval of this application, conditional to, or subject to the conditions outlined in the motion. And I I believe the applicant is here as well. So, thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Leary. So I'm going to go to the committee again for questions. Are there any questions regarding this property? Peter, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I, again, will reiterate my concern about shed dormers. When we have a written policy, I find it very difficult to vote against that policy. Having heard the owners and the Matt Gerben, the designer here, explain why, I will not be voting against the proposal, but I would like to have maybe some later date, some investigation in how dormers can be put in, which are not shed dormers, but which serve the purpose so that people can walk right up to the edge of the room. I realize the problem, and I think it puts us in a very difficult position of voting against a previously approved policy. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Peter. So would staff or the applicant like to address that? Go ahead, just state your name, please.
Hi, I'm Matt Gerben. I'm the designer on the project, and the owner is here as well. Tom Skinner. Hi, Peter. How are you? I think pretty much has been, pretty everything's really been covered. I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but the big one of the big issues obviously is the shed dormer in the back, but there's no back laneway. The yard is like minuscule. They don't even have a parking lot with this house. And you've got to sort of, if you're over in West Street, you look up through there, and if you really look at it, if you're looking for it, you can see the dormer, but really it's pretty well hidden. And the other one is, the other big issue is the windows, and the windows are just the vinyl windows and 2/2 and 1/1s, and from our reckoning, the 3/3 with the wider windows is really the way to go. The owners are very keen on the heritage preservation of the place. They love this area. They moved here specifically so they could live in Sydenham Ward, and so I think they're going to be good advocates of keeping the neighborhood residential and not students. And they have 3 children, so there's 3 bedrooms on the second floor. In the attic space, when you look at the cross sections, I mean, it's barely habitable. It's it's so small up there, but the shed dormer will make it at least functional. So I think that's all I've got to say, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for some clarification on that. Do any other members of committee have questions? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go to the public. Do any members of the public have questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I need a mover and a seconder for this application. So Anne, Jen, thank you, and all in favor? Thank you very much, and welcome to Sydenham. Okay, so we're on to our next property, which is 28 Maitland, and so I'm going to ask staff to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this property at 28 Maitland is a northern portion of a semi-detached dwelling that spans over 2 properties. It was severed in 2020 at the southwest side of the street, south of King Street East. The property is designated under Part 5 only as part of the Old Sydenham District. The owners wish to gain approval under Section 42 of the Act to construct a 9-foot by 13-foot or 2.7 meter by 3.9 meter detached storage building, a shed, and a small garbage enclosure on the property. The new shed will be about 12 feet tall or 3.7 meters with a gabled roof covered with a dark colored metal roofing and clad in a painted cement board. The small shed will be clad and roofed to match and will be adjacent to the building or to the garage. The new shed will obstruct portions of the main building. The main building's location on the lot limits the owner's ability to construct a shed in either side or rear yards. The new shed is set back approximately 10 meters from the street, about halfway between the street and the main building. And the setback of the new shed does allow for uninterrupted views of the flanking limestone buildings, former carriage houses along Maitland Street, as well as the roofline and portions of the main building at 26 and 28 Maitland Street. The new shed itself is a simple, traditional design. It complements the character of the property and area. And according to the review letter by Heritage Studios, it is compatible with the surrounding historic environment, sits comfortably alongside the adjacent stone outbuildings and recently rehabilitated main house. And Heritage Planning staff agree with the conclusion of Heritage Studios' report, and the proposal conforms with the district plan and good practices in heritage conservation. We received written comments from 3 members of this committee. No substantive concerns were expressed, and we recommend approval of this application. Thanks.
Thank you once again. Okay, so I'm going to go to committee for questions regarding this application. Okay, seeing none. We're all itching for another cup of coffee, I think. I'm going to go to the public to see if there are any questions or comments. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask for a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Jen? Peter, thank you very much. Anything else from committee? All right, then I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Thank you, and thank you. Good work to staff and committee. All right, so we're now on to our notice of intent to designate under the Ontario Heritage Act. I'm going to ask Peter to please take the chair. Not yet? Nope. Oh. Okay, so I've just been informed I will pass it on to you after Peter. Okay, so notice of intent to designate under the Ontario Heritage Act. So the addresses in front of us are 1553 Sunnyside Road, 265 King Street East, 275 King Street East, 2785 Lee Road, 375, it was a late night last night, Maple Ridge Drive, 730 Hillview Road, 149 Brock, 161 Brock, 163 Brock, 319 and 321 King Street West, and 347 Wellington Street. So I will ask staff to introduce the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is another batch of potential designations for committee's consideration. We provide this as a background of the evaluation and information for these 12 properties that were found to exceed the threshold established by the province of Ontario for designation under Part 4. This group includes 4 former farmhouses, 1 brick and 3 limestone, representing a range of 19th century vernacular construction, 4 brick downtown commercial or mixed-use buildings, displaying a variety of architectural styles and embodying a wealth of little-known local history, a unique example of a turn-of-the-century infill building, a rare surviving wood frame building from a time just prior to their prohibition in downtown, and one of the only 2 dry docks left in the city of Kingston. The owners of these properties have been provided with the draft designation bylaws, general information on the designations by registered mail. The owners were also invited to an open house on March 27th, where several of the owners chose to attend. 1 letter of concern was provided by the owners of 163 Brock Street, which is included as an exhibit to this report. Since the writing of the report, 2 further letters of concern from owners of 321 King West and 149 Brock Street, respectively, have also been received and are included in your addendum of today's meeting. We wish to also draw your attention to the amended bylaw for 319 and 321 King Street West in your addendum. Following receipt of the letter from the owner of 321, it was apparent that there was a grammatical error related to the list of attributes, and which caused confusion. So the revised bylaw has been amended, and the corrected version is in the addendum. All 12 of the properties before you today meet the provincial criteria for evaluating cultural heritage value, and as set out in Ontario Regulation 906, and are thus recommended for designation. The notice of intention to designate and draft bylaws have been prepared in accordance with the recent amendments to the Ontario Heritage Act. and staff recommends serving the notice of intent to designate these properties to ensure their conservation and to enable the city to provide support to the owners and tenants. Thanks.
Thank you again. Okay, so I'm going to go to committee for questions. Any questions regarding these properties? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go to the public. Are there any questions or comments from the public? Okay, please step forward to one of the microphones. Just state your name and address. You have 5 minutes, and we'll address all comments at the end.
So you have to press the button at the bottom.
Okay, thank you. I'm Ruth Sandwell, and I'm the co-owner of 321 King Street West. And we have protested the designation or objected to the designation of our property as a heritage property, mainly because the house is it's the first one of the Hales cottages, and the house burnt down or was substantially damaged in 1908 and was rebuilt in 1910 in a way that we feel we're strongly in favor of heritage legislation, but we feel that our house is actually a really good example of why we need heritage boards in Kingston, because as we've outlined in more detail in our correspondence, we feel that it actually was built in a way that pays almost no attention to the features of the Hales cottages, which are so lovely, and even though they're varied, and all those houses were rebuilt in the 1890s after their original 1841 construction. So our concern is that especially it was rebuilt as a duplex. So the owner, Mr. Patterson, Captain Patterson, when the house burnt down, decided that he was not going to rebuild that cottage in a spirit that was similar to the other Hales cottages that were renovated in the 1890s, but that he was going to do something completely different and build a large extension, build a full second floor and a large attic, and then divide it sort of 1/3 and 2/3 so that he could, I guess, sell it on. And so we're arguing that this is an example, a typical example of an infill property that paid almost no attention to the surrounding buildings. That in fact, it's a really good example of what happens when people pay no attention to the heritage culture. And there are a number of beautiful heritage houses of very different styles in our neighborhood. And this is kind of stands out as an example of a building that simply doesn't fit in. Like, that's what you notice from the street when you look at it. Also, all the heritage features that are noted most of them are in 319, and our neighbor, Bill, who owns 319, is here as well. There aren't very many of them, but in our house, really the only feature is our living room window, which was part of the original cottage. And the second floor, the third floor, and the whole west wall actually has none of those heritage features. It's got wood siding on it rather than stucco over wood frame and stone. And the back of our house is, it's a bit of a mishmash. And in fact, it's the same all along the very dominant west wall. The owners took when they renovated or added to it in 1910, they took it right out to Center Street, so we're right on the sidewalk. So we're afraid that a heritage designation would lock in and make changes impossible for somebody trying to perhaps bring it back more to look like the rest of the Hales cottages or other heritage buildings.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak at this time? We collect all the questions and comments and then answer them. Okay, seeing none. So staff, would you like to address the questions at hand?
Yes, Madam Chair. I think I'll say just a couple things. It's important to understand that these buildings, these resources, were evaluated as they exist today. We're aware of the changes. We're aware of what the building looks like today. So the evaluation that was done against the 906 criteria were done as the building exists today, not some utopian dream of what it may look in the future. So I think that's important to understand. This particular build property, set of 2 properties, met 3 of the 9 criteria, And as the committee knows, it only needs to meet 2. So I think that's important to keep in mind. The other point I wanted to raise is, interestingly, there is no requirement in the Heritage Act that a property has to have heritage attributes. So it's kind of an interesting thing to consider that sometimes meeting the criteria of the 906 results in really no physical features on the building, on the property that needs to be conserved. So just thought I'd point that out. The list of attributes is very, very site-specific and very, very resource-specific. So sometimes there's a whole list of them, sometimes there's very few, but actually the Act doesn't require any. So I just thought that was an interesting factoid. And the last thing, of course, is something we tell owners regularly. The fact that the property is designated does in no way lock it in time. And this committee is well aware of that. We see it every meeting, folks coming in wanting to make changes. And as you saw today, we just approved 4 of them in a record time. So it's certainly not locked in time. We want to see these people, our properties used, enjoyed, and invested in going forward. And we're certainly open to look at of how owners wish to do that and make the best of their investment. So I hope that answers some questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so with that, I now need to ask someone to move and second the recommendation for these properties. Okay, Jen, Peter? Okay, now? Okay. All right, so I have a motion to put forward, so I'm going to have to hand the chair to you, Peter. And do we have that, Ian? Okay.
Chair is with me. You wish to speak?
Yes, I'm going to need someone to second this, though. Councillor Oosterhoff is going to do that, but unfortunately, he's not here. So could I have someone second that? Gunnar? Okay, thank you. Yes, so this is just a motion to defer the, to defer 163 Brock. So the owner of this property has come forward with some concerns, and it's simply to allow some additional time to discuss those concerns, and hopefully we'll be able to resolve the issues in front of us. So pretty straightforward.
Okay, any further discussion on this? This is just with committee for discussion, so seeing none then.
I guess I was just wondering what sort of concerns. Yeah.
So the owner is Dr. McSween. She's concerned about the burden of a heritage designation, and I think we need a bit more time to have discussion about what the heritage designation actually means. There's a medical practice in here. She, I think, has some feelings that it may be inconsistent with her medical practice to have this building designated. So just an opportunity to have further discussions around that.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none then, we have a motion which was up on the screen. That clauses 16 and 17 regarding 163 Brock in the report be deferred without a date, deferred to May 15, 2024, moved by Councillor Glenn, seconded by Mr. Heisler. Those in favour of that deferral? Those against? That motion is carried. The chair is back with you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So now we're going to go back to the original motion with the deferral on that particular property, and I'm going to look to committee for any final comments on the properties up for designation in front of us. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to call the vote then. All in favor? Okay, thank you. So it looks like we have moved very quickly through this agenda yet again. Thank you to everyone for that. So no working groups, no, let me see, here we are. Permit approvals. Any questions regarding the permitting report to committee? Okay, seeing none. I guess that means, here we are, no motions, no notices of motion, no other business. We had correspondence on our addendum. So the date of the next meeting is scheduled for May 15th at 9:30 a.m. I'm going to ask committee to make sure they attend. I unfortunately will not be here, and Jane will be subbing in for me. So I am giving you my early regrets, and I hope it goes well. So with that, I just need a mover and a seconder to call the meeting to end. Okay, Anne and Daniel, thank you, and all in favor. Thank you once again.